One here and for those on Zoom, thank you all for joining us. Sincere thank you to LMSD CFO, Mr. Vic Orlando, for joining us for our October roundtable. In shifting this program to a more cooperative and interactive form of communication, we ask that everyone here and all of those in Zoom to treat Mr. Orlando and all of our subsequent guests with the utmost respect and appreciation for being here. This meeting, as with all of our roundtable meetings, will occur in the spirit of cooperation, open communication, and mutual respect. We'd like to invite you to attend our next parent education event, which is November 19th, 7 p.m. on the Science of Reading, which features Dr. Gao Che Young, and this event is held exclusively on Zoom. Our most recent Parent Ed event program featured Mark Trainer, who's a licensed counselor with extensive training and experience in treating compulsive behaviors and trauma. He spoke about trends, risks, and warning signs of teen gambling. To view this or any of our past roundtables or parent education events, please visit the LMSD Interschool Council ISC YouTube page. We also invite you to join us for our next roundtable meeting here and on Zoom on November 18th for 9:15 for coffee, 9:30 for the program, where we will welcome Sana Garner and Dr. Frank Rinelli to discuss the new mission of the Lower Merion Education Foundation, the LMSD playgrounds, and outdoor spaces. In order to enable our participants to equitably ask questions, we ask that when you are called upon to ask a question, you ask only one question at the time. So please hold back on those 2- and 3-part questions. You can always ask a second question after others have had a turn to ask their first. In addition, we will be allowing those on Zoom to ask questions throughout the meeting, and their participation will be coordinated by our Vice Presidents of Communications. Our meeting today will be recorded and closed captioned, posted onto the ISC YouTube channel. Now, let's give a warm welcome to Vic.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, Vic, can you tell us a little bit about your position here at LMSD?
Well, here at the position, I basically oversee the business operations of the school districts. What does that mean? So we have everything from payroll, which is 1,700 employees get paid every 2 weeks. We have probably tens of thousands of accounts payables, transactions that get paid, thousands of purchase orders that get paid also. So we get everything purchased for the schools and the departments. We also get involved with any insurance risk management here at the school district as well, and all the filings that are due with the federal, state, and local level. We handle a lot of those. Obviously, we do it every year with the annual audit and all the accounting work and investments that we do here with the school district. So in a nutshell, I have a staff of about 7 other individuals. Obviously, I don't do it all myself, and I think we say that every year in the audit. We're a small group, but very, very well in tune with the same mission. They'll be very honest with you. They're getting older and they're starting to retire on me, so we're getting some new blood into the office. I know last night, if you were at the meeting, they recognized one of my long-term employees, Debbie Williams, for 30 years of service here at the district, and also is a Lower Merion grad, by the way. So is very well with that. I also the Director of Operations and Nutritional Services reports to me. So Mr. Lowe and Mr. Hussein, they also report to me, so I get involved with those operations and supervising them with the help of Jim and Mo. So that's kind of in a nutshell what the position is here at Lower Merion.
Okay, great, thank you. Can you walk us through the process of how the school district's budget is developed each year?
Sure. So we've actually started the 26-27 budget process already. We send information out to the buildings and the departments in guidelines on how to prepare the budget. Over the next several weeks, they will submit their budget requests. They will be reviewed by the administration, most of the cabinet, and we'll look at what those requests are every year. And every year, it's the same thing. They ask for a lot. They think, what can fit like in the confines of our resources that we have, and we come up with some type of a budget with that. There are also other parts of the budget. So the HR and the payroll information, we will then develop our personnel costs. And that if you what I would recommend too, if you go back to the website and see our videos, all the finance committee meetings, we talk about the expenses, and obviously the most percentage wise and dollar wise is our personnel cost. And I mentioned before, we have 1,700 employees every 2 weeks that have to get paid. So that's a big part. So we'll spend sometimes with HR, making sure we have all the positions, people on the right step, the right column, per the collective bargaining, and make sure everybody in there. So that's a big part of the budget. We also deal with different consultants. So we're in a healthcare consortium. They have actuaries that come up with our healthcare rates and our drug RX rates for the years. We deal with them. Also, we have our insurance providers. We deal with our broker to go through all like what's in the market and what our expenses are with that. And also public financial management. We go over our debt service and make sure we have all our bond payments in there. So I deal with some consultants too in developing the budget. Now, as the budget develops, and I'm Italian, so my hands will kind of, so don't, I scream, sorry. That's just the way it is. So as the budget gets to the process, those numbers will change as we get more refined numbers in the process. So even though we're starting now, by the time we get to June, the numbers are going to change. And so that happens all the time, with that. So that's on the expense side. Then you got to turn to the revenue side of the budget. So we have, I think one of the questions about, the funding sources. So we have 80% comes from the local taxpayers, about 15% or so comes from the state and other sources that we have. So that's kind of on the revenue side. So when your tax bill comes in July, we're going through the process now, collecting between now and the end of December the taxes. And then once the first year rolls around, anybody who hasn't paid their taxes, they'll be leaned, and then we get the final collection number. So it helps us out then to see like what our percentage of collection would have, and then we use that in the budget going forward. And we also look at historical information as far as other taxes that we collect. And then obviously then we get to the state side, and I'm sure you're aware of, there's no state budget yet. So July is come and gone. We're like almost in month 4 and nothing's coming in. So we're relying strictly on our local taxpayer, money that come in to basically fund the district now. So that's kind of where we're at. Don't ask me when it's going to be resolved. It doesn't sound anytime this month. So we'll keep working with that. And there are different formulas in the state budget. So basic education funding, there's a formula. We get about $5 million, I think, this year. There's a formula based upon enrollment and wealth and some other factors, and how you get funded. So we get a small amount of money because we're considered to be, quote, a wealthy district. So even though we have a high enrollment, since we're wealthy, another district maybe the same enrollment will get double we get small amount of money. Same with special ed funding also. And then there's basically a couple other funding sources deal with retirement, and the Social Security retirement is basically what we have to contribute to the pension fund, which is decided by the board, and we get half of that back from them. And as far as the federal government goes, we get very minimal, probably 1% or less of our budget is from the feds. And so far, knock on wood, that has kind of stayed flat. I don't know with the administration, there's been talk about cutting some of the federal funding with that. So that kind of, we'll put that all together over the next several months, and then we'll have public meetings. There'll be a series of meetings on the finance committee that will go through each of these different revenues and expenses in detail. And there'll be other members of the cabinet that will be there to go specifically into the budget, whether it's curriculum and the other departments. You can get more details of that. So that will have in the next several months. We'll have per Act 1, we have certain meetings required for post-final budget, potential preliminary budget, and the final budget. That's under Act 1. Act 1 is one of the laws that governs the budget process. You probably heard us talk about that in the past. The Act 1 index, which was just published for 26-27, is 3.5%. So it's down. It's current year 4%. It's now down to 3.5%. So that's kind of where we're at now with the budget. So that's kind of how it does. And again, we'll be working on the budget all the way up to like June. There are people retire, other things that happen that will always change like the budget. And in addition to that, we also have to incorporate our capital plan as far as money we're transferring to the cap reserve to buy new buses and other other capital items too, which we'll have a meeting to go over that too. So a lot of different parts that we put into the budget. That's on the expense side.
And what factors determine the budget priorities for the district?
Well, I think every year it depends upon, each year is different. So as a cabinet, we get together, talk about what our priorities are. So every year it kind of varies from year to year. So it's not like, hey, this is the priority. Different things, happen. One year was in full vacay, then healthy start times. There's different priorities that come up. So we're in that process now and see what the priorities are for the upcoming year.
How do you manage to incorporate the input from teachers, parents, and the community when you're putting the budget together?
Well, some teachers are involved in the process and developing the building budgets. A lot of the department heads that get involved with that, with the teachers and some of the special ed, and also the supervisors from the various departments give input when they develop the budget. Parents and community, we have public meetings that they can come in and listen to the presentation and also provide input in the budget.
What challenges do you face during the budgeting process and how do you address them?
Well, every year, challenges change from year to year. Obviously, we have to look and see what happens in the world. So, for example, if you watch the market, the Federal Reserve starting to cut the interest rates, that's going to impact us as far as our investment income goes. So we have to see like what each year is kind of different, the challenge are. So obviously it's what programs want to be implemented, what's our regular day-to-day increase in salaries, what happens with medical, and then see like what financial resources we have to pay for those expenditures. So it kind of varies from year to year.
Switching gears to funding sources, and you talked a little bit about this already in terms of without the state budget, really, it's primarily taxpayers, but what are the other primary sources of funding for the school district? Are there any others, and how do they compare in terms of contribution to the overall budget?
No, I think what I mentioned before, that the local sources, 80% comes from the local taxpayers. And like I said, we have 15-ish or so from the state and very little from the government. So I mean, nothing really.
There's nothing else in terms of like investments and
well, investments
like
is under local sources. So local sources, you have your annual tax bill. It's called interim taxes. So if there's new construction that happens, that's called interim monies. There's also transfer taxes when houses are bought and sold, that we get a portion of that. Obviously, I mentioned before, delinquent taxes, individuals don't pay or companies don't pay their taxes on time, we get that money. Then there's also the investments also. So I deal with different investment bankers and try to get the best rates. And I deal with them in the budget process. I can forecast me, like, what do you think the market is going to be? And they're pretty good. They know, like, they predict kind of what the Fed is going to do as far as rate cuts and everything. So that helps out a lot. I mean, right now with the quarter cut, we're getting over 4%. Now it looks to be right now, probably a year out, it's probably like 3.5%. I'm sure more cuts will come, that number will keep going down. That's going to have a very negative impact on us as far as we're not going to get the same level of investment income. So now we got to figure out, is there other revenues that are going to make up for that money, or is other expenditures that have to be cut to make up that? So that's part of the process that we go through.
And then with the state funding, how does the state determine their funding, and is the formula anticipated to change after the fair funding ruling?
So the state has their own budget, and like us, they get tax income, your income tax, your sales tax, and so forth, and they're their own investment income. They develop their budget, which I think is like somewhere $50 billion of that. And I mentioned before, there's different funding that we get through different formulas that are been passed by the Senate and so forth. That is how we get our money. I don't anticipate the share funding formula really having an impact on Marion, again, because we're wealthy. So I don't think you're going to see much change. I'd be surprised with this fair funding ruling that came out.
Okay. Are there any federal or local grants that significantly impact the budget?
Define significant.
In your opinion?
No, I don't think so. There's no really, I mean, the grants that we get in, you gotta realize we're a $350 million budget. If you get a grant in, it's $200,000 or $300,000 on that budget. Dollar wise, it's not really significant, to us. So we don't have any really major, I call it significant ones. I mean, we get our usual, Title I, 300,000 here or there, but nothing really significant.
And kind of on to checks and balances, how do you explain the role of the school board in overseeing the budget and financial decisions?
So the administration prepares the budget. We do have a finance committee, which is made up of school board members that attend. We present the information and to them. As everybody here, you can see the videos of it, and they have the information. And then ultimately, it's up to the school board to approve the budget. So they'll approve the budget and also establish the millage rate for that. And again, any other financial decisions that have to come to the board level, they'll require in the public to approve those. So ultimately, they have the decision as to what is the budget going to be and what is the millage rate.
How do you ensure that the spending aligns with the strategic goals of the district?
Well, as the cabinet as a whole, we meet together to make sure like each department and each building that, we're meeting the strategic goals of the district. So really, it's kind of a team approach to making sure we meet the strategic goals of the district.
And kind of talking about future planning, how are changes in student enrollment and demographic shifts influencing the budget planning?
So we do look at our enrollment to see where the enrollment trends are going, what are the different grade levels as far as the enrollment at each level. So for example, you might have one school 5 sessions of a 3rd grade, and the next 3rd grade might only be like 3 sessions. So we have to plan for that, and we have different long-term subs that we have in there that maybe for 1 year might be an increase. So we do look at the enrollment. Demographics has impacted. Our special ed population has increased, so that has shifted more increase in expenditures to the special ed department. But we do look at those every year, and they do have an impact. We were for years there was going way up on the enrollment was kept increasing. Now it's kind of leveled off around that 8,500 the last couple of years. But we do look, and again, from building to building, elementary, secondary, it keeps changing. And, through the other members of the cabinet, we look at those trends, look and see what we need as far as resources, particularly on the personnel side.
How does the district handle fluctuations in funding or unexpected revenue shortfalls?
Well, knock on wood, we've been pretty haven't really experienced that much. I mean, we've been pretty, what we have budgeted on the revenue side pretty much has been close to that. So we haven't really seen any large fluctuations. Sometimes one revenue item may be less than what you budgeted, other ones may be slightly higher than that. It's like they kind of have all set, balance out like in the end, with that. As far as the state funding goes, the governor in February will present their budget, and through local state organizations, we can kind of determine similarly pretty closely what we think we're going to get as far as state revenue. I said that the Fed is pretty much the same every year, at least has been historically.
And what initiatives or programs are you currently exploring to optimize financial resources or improve budget efficiency?
Okay, I don't know what that means, but we look at all our financial resources, all our information historically. We deal with consultants to kind of help us out, like I said, mentioned with investments and so forth. And we deal with the county and our assessed value. So I don't know if we have any programs, but we kind of look at historical information, get information from the county and the township and from other consultants to kind of help us out with our financial resources. And again, as far as in the budget efficiency on the expense side, we do deal with different consultants, and obviously we're looking at historic information, and we look and see what the needs are for the different departments and the buildings.
I know you mentioned the budget meetings that are held.
Yes.
And said that the community's feedback is welcome from those. Are those meetings held all in the spring? Is that correct?
Typically there are, so there are held after the first of the year. So typically, I'm gonna say February, March, we'll start. Once we get the schedule out, we'll post them. There'll be, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 of them that we'll have available to the public. You can come to the meeting, or I think they might be on a live stream. Also, you can come in and listen to what the budget process, learn more about each specific department. They'll go more in detail of that. And there is a public comment that individuals can comment or ask questions regarding the budget itself.
Are there other ways the budget is communicated out to the public and updates as well to?
So we have on the website, there's a page, I think it's called Budget Info, that we have our postings. All the meetings are recorded. So you can see if you can't make the meeting, there is recordings of it. You can see the PowerPoint. Anything that's required to be filed by the state, that will all be posted on our website for that.
And I'm guessing the advice that you would give to parents and community members to understand more about the school funding and budgeting would be to go to that actual
Correct.
website.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to learn more, you can go to the website now and see for the 25-26 process, what that looked like. And then I would then urge you to, if you're interested in the budget, to either attend a meeting or listen to the videos.
And how long will those videos stay up on board docs?
That's a good question. I have to talk to the IT department. I don't know how long they keep it on their top of my head.
Okay.
But
Like, could you go back and look at the 25-26?
I believe I don't know. I have to find out and see how long they keep it. There is a certain window of time they can keep the videos on there. So I have to go back, and I'll get that information for Tammy.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
I know that we'll have some questions in the room, and I'm sure on Zoom as well. So we'd like to open it up to the room. Does anyone have any questions? Talia.
What is the plan to tackle the deficit and start saving money for things like inclusive playgrounds and moving concerns? And is there a plan to get back, get some more funding to get the programs that were cut back back into the district?
Will that be part of the budget process? So I don't answer for you right now, but we're in the process of reviewing, the items that you mentioned and coming forth with some type of funding plan.
Michelle.
With the bus cuts, was your department part of that, and how was that decided? If we don't have shortfalls, but we had to cut the late buses?
Well, that was all.
On Friday.
So that was all explained, like in the finance committee meeting. That was all explained, not by myself, but other individuals actually went over and gave the rationale behind that. So I'm gonna go back to I don't know off the top of my head. It wasn't me particularly. There's other individuals that were involved. Again, we work as a cabinet, as a team, to identify items that maybe added, eliminated, or so forth from the budget.
For those that are new to the district, what are the programs that were cut?
On the programs, there's different services. There's again, you go to the video, there's a list of different things. Every year we do the budget. In the budget process, we make adjustments to the budget. This past year, due to a lot of other factors, there was more services or things that were reduced to some degree. I don't know if it eliminates the word, things that were reduced. And again, it depends from year to year. I mean, we had again, the videos, we talk about different things that happen, assessed values went down, a lot of the commercial properties, appealed their assessments. So you got a lot of, we call it, commercial properties that have like different tenants in there, and that if you look at what happened with COVID, a lot of people are working from home. Well, a lot of those leases now finally came due, and you got this company saying that I don't need this office space. You got a lot of office space that's vacant now, and you're the owner of the property, and say, well, I'm not getting the same revenue, it's not worth the same. They appeal the properties, and that was a significant impact, which we haven't seen in years. I've been here a long time, over 15, 16 years. And, the trends always, we were always increasing. This first time we had a huge drop off in revenue, and it did impact a lot. And again, that's nothing the district can hold on. That's all done by the county level. So that was kind of a different thing that we haven't experienced in years. So it made for some difficult decisions that we had to do in this year's budget.
Some of the, oh,
Sorry.
I was just gonna say to you, some of the things that changes was the way that there used to be 2 late buses after school, now there's 1 and 1 not on Friday. And then I think some of the other issues were some of the, say like an art teacher who might have been assigned to one high school. would
Yeah, right,
have
we
split
shifted-
time.
Haven't been replaced.
We shift around every year. As explained before, every year we look at the personnel, and each year there's different things that get shifted around based upon enrollment and the need. So that's something that happens every time in every budget process.
So since the appeals date have come and gone, which is, I believe, August 1st or July 31st, do you anticipate a large number of appeals to be won, or was there a large amount of appeals? And-
So when we're talking about assessment appeals, so you have assessment appeals that were filed, could be a couple of years ago, that haven't been resolved yet. So it's just not 1 year. I mean, so we have appeals that were filed last year that haven't been resolved yet. And sometimes it's a taxpayer, it's up to them to push the case. So sometimes it'll sit there we've got cases that have been there for years before they get resolved. And it's, unfortunately, that's the way it is. We have seen still a large number of properties that were appealed, for this year, which would impact the following year. So you probably, it's not for the 26, 27. So there have some that have been filed, some haven't been heard yet. So what they do is they go to the Board of Assessment, they make a ruling, they don't like the ruling, then they'll appeal it, and then, then we get into the lawyers, go back, because they'll hire a lawyer, and next thing, so then we get into that whole process, which could take months, years, weeks. And we have to get appraisers involved and different consultants involved on both sides to come up with hopefully a resolution or a settlement, which is we try to do. Most cases don't go to actual trial.
Is there anything on that? Are there any other questions? Okay.
I have a question. We at Community HSA meeting last night, Sana came to talk to us about the playground project. Why isn't the district funding that project? Why are they having to source outside funding to make necessary improvements to the playground? Not that all the improvements are necessary, but some of them are.
Yeah, I don't know if I have an answer for that right now. I mean, we've had some discussions around it. I'd have to talk with the superintendent, who deals with, the board and such. But we have a lot of needs, capital needs, I think, in addition to the playgrounds that's been on the books that have to be done, that costs millions and millions of dollars. So there's a lot of different items we have to attend to. Like, for example, the BC roof. We did phase 1 last year. Phase 2, that's a $5 million. I mean, it's 4 million. I mean, it's probably going to be somewhere 9 to 10 million to do the whole. There's only so much resources that we have, and there's different things that need to be done. The roof's not going to last. If you can believe it, Lower Marion, it's over 15 years old now. That roof's not going to last, years, a decade from now. But in the meantime, it's going to have to be, replaced. So there's a lot of projects that we have on there. Arnold Field Lights is another project that people want to have done. People in playing. So there's only so much resources that we have. So we're trying to prioritize and see what we're going to do. So we're trying to work out a plan, see how we can make everything work.
That's a great question to come to the next
Yeah.
roundtable meeting and ask Dr. Ranelli and Sana will be here at the next meeting. And so they'll be leading the meeting together, talking about what the new mission of the LMEF is and how it fits into the playgrounds in the school district. So that's a perfect question.
And other districts have done that with outside sources to help fund different projects. I think one was a playground project that Dr. Mussolini was here a while ago, talked about a project he did with the community involvement.
I don't know if you can answer this either, but when it comes time, like you said, because of these unexpected things that come up in the budget and then, you know, you don't have certain money for certain things every year. How is it determined what gets cut? Like, how is that? I don't know, like, how do you prioritize that? Like, how do you decide which program in the school needs to be cut because we can't afford it anymore for this year?
Yeah, again, that'd be done at the cabinet level with the other administrators. Yeah, I'm not an educator, I'm a CPA, so I'm the numbers guy, but you know, they know like what programs they have and you know, what can be modified or revised in some manner, how we maybe do things better. So it's a team effort, so I can't give you how definitely, but we meet together and say, what are the items, what do we need? What do we forecast, you know, if we have teachers that are retire, factor that in, that maybe some programs we don't have to revise or reduce or cut, as you said. So it kind of varies. So it is a team effort that we look at.
Is there ever, is there ever been a time where you could say, like for your role, if this is being cut now, maybe within the budget, it's something that can come back if this or this happens? Is there anything?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, we look and see like what are resources. We put the budget together and see what is left, and then okay, if there was money, I'll call it left over, so to speak, then we would have to see like what are the priorities of the district, and just because something got cut may not be our priority. There may be something else new that comes up to say we want to do this program, whether it's a new textbook series or some other program that comes in. You know, as a cabinet, we'll make that decision. You know, with the superintendent and everybody else involved.
Lisa.
So one thing that we kind of heard a lot about last year was that there was a $5 million shortfall. Can you explain kind of what that means or what that
Well,
meant
again,
and how that kind like
there was, so I'll go back to, so if you go to the meeting, that has everything that was explained to it. I don't have the top of my head all the details of it, but there were different things that were out there. I think you had to go to the meeting and see what all that was all explained in detail in the meeting.
Stephanie, go ahead.
I have a sort of random question, and if
Sure.
it's too granular, feel free to. I always wondered for extracurricular activities, coaches and clubs and things like that. How, not deep dive, but like high level, how compensation for time sort of happens. Like we have some teachers that are there until 5:30 every single day. Are they volunteers? Are they receiving some type of an additional pay for that? Is it hourly or when you're bringing in outside people to the district? That's something the district pays for. If you want to add more, is it something boosters can fundraise to support, or like how does that?
So it's called EPR, extra pay for extra responsibility. So in the collective bargaining agreement, it'll list football coaches, basketball coaches, it'll list actually the position and what the compensation would be.
Okay, so they're getting
They are
paid
compensated,
something.
they are compensated, yes. There may be, there could be a volunteer coach out there once in a while. I don't know if they're any right now, but generally speaking, they're all compensated. Whether they're a district employee or I'll call an outsider who's coaching, they all get it through the collective bargaining, which that is in the collective bargaining agreement. And each one has different levels as far as compensation go, depending upon the sport and the activity. And there's different ones that have, you know, competitions, local, state, and national ones where you got TSA and something. There's different, it's a whole different formula and how they all get compensated, but they are
So we
compensated.
can see it on like the meetings he was talking about on the agenda of the finance meeting.
It breaks
They
that down.
it lists
Yeah,
all
so
the
I think,
coaches.
yeah, on the HR attachment, we'll have an attachment and it'll list the person's name, the position, and the actual salary. So you can see that all get approved every year. And some might be, I'm thinking what probably the winter sports are coming up, or maybe here are coming up. You'll see them. So the spring will probably come up sometime after the first of the year. Here's all the coaches for the spring.
Sports clubs.
Sports club, yeah, some of the clubs are year round, so they probably may happen like in the spring of the prior year, probably, because they start right away. Same with like the football coach, they'll be approved ahead of time, but you can see all that. It's against all the attachments. Yeah.
Just wondering how-
Yeah.
Go ahead, Talia.
Oh, okay, after telling you, go.
Not to give you more work, because it sounds like you've got a lot going on. But is there a way to break down the budget that would be easier for parents to read through. You know, like when you present the budget, you know, it's flying over most people's heads. You know, there's no breakdown where it's just easy for like a parent to just go in and see what's happening in the district. Is there a way to kind of get it more into like layman's terms and like further breakdowns so that people can really understand where like all of the money is going?
Whatever breakdown, so the state has a requirement how we have to report the budget on different accounts, so we're required to report it in that level. What we try to do in some of the different departments, try to highlight different programs so you can understand, but it'd be very difficult to kind of, but this way the accounting manual is to, I don't know what you mean by make it more, because we list basically, here's your supplies, you know, here's your, you know, for example, supplies, we do list all that when we do the budget presentations on there. And then, for example, HR, they'll mention, here's how many support we have, and here's how many teachers we have. So we try to give as much detail as we can, but the state requires us to go like in a certain way. So unfortunately, yeah, it's challenging. It could be challenging, you know, if you're not, I've been doing this for 30 years, so it's second nature to me, you know, doing it. So.
What they said.
So can you so you talked about kind of the priorities being determined now, or is that happening in the spring for the next school year?
So priorities, so the cabinet will meet and come up with priorities. People put their budgets together. We'll review those budgets and see what the priorities are, what people are requesting from the departments.
So I guess my question is, does that come from teachers who kind of say what their priorities are for the upcoming year? Does that come from the board saying, or does it come from like the superintendent's goals? Like what's actually driving who determines the priorities? And then it seems like the board kind of isn't really involved in determining the priorities. Can you, I don't know, I may have missed something in.
So I know the priorities come from the cabinet level, which could be input.
And who's the cabinet?
So the cabinet is various administrators, you know, the superintendents, the superintendent, people you usually see at the board meetings are pretty much like the cabinet that is there. So they'll put together, they have, you know, curriculum and so forth, what their priorities are. Superintendent gets involved, the board gets involved and see what their priorities are, and then to develop the budget based upon what they believe is needed for the school district. And they'll put together their budgets, then we'll review those and see what the priorities are, what the resources are, and so forth.
And so is there a place, is there a place where we can see like what the priorities are for like the existing year? Is that kind of documented anywhere? Or is it just kind of like a feeling like when
I have to go back and see. Yeah, I mean, they have their different priorities in their budgets. I don't get involved in the curriculum, educational, instructional side as what their priorities are, but they develop their priorities and what those are.
So something like roofs and playgrounds in Arnold Field wouldn't be set as a priority where.
Oh, we have a, in the facilities, we went through, different capital improvements and what years we believe they need to be, you know, completed. So we have a priority list from what we believe, what is that priority list could change depending upon what the resource, something else could go, you know, different things that, you know, a consultant might come in and say, hey, you know, you don't need to replace this in this year, maybe you can wait 2 years because the quality hasn't depreciated as much, or so things kind of change like all the time.
I just thought of one more thing. Has there ever been a time where the school board actually voted no to any of the budget recommendations or requests?
There's been votes on the budget where it hasn't been a 9-0 vote. There's been some board members that have voted against the budget, yes.
But like a no where it just didn't get approved, not like one person says no, but or
No,
do they all have to approve it for it to be
you
approved?
need five out of the 9 have to vote for it. So I'm not gonna win in my career. In 30 years, I never had a board in any school district. I've been in 3 other school districts that it got to the point and say, no, we're not gonna approve the budget. You know, I haven't seen that I'm sure there are districts that it's happened to. I know some colleges that's happened that, hey, it didn't get approved. They want some more information. Whether the budgets have changed or the same budgets got approved anyway, you know, I don't know.
And just to follow up on that thought, the board doesn't actually vote on line items. They vote on a wholesale, do we approve this budget?
They improved on the entire budget, correct?
So any of the line items, if there's a dispute on them, that would happen inside the budget committee meeting.
Correct, we
Yeah.
would, yes, yes.
As you had mentioned Arnold Field, and I know, there's sort of, several years ago, there was a large drive for that and lots of back and forth on it. And I know there is certainly limited funds on all the things that everyone wants to do. Is that anywhere on a priority list at this point, or is that really kind of just the passion for that is not there anymore? Is that
It's
a
still there.
hard question?
It's still there. Believe me, it's still there. And depends upon who you talk to, what their priorities are, but it's still there. Everything got approved that's needed to move forward with the project, if so be. But it's still there. It's still alive and still can happen. I mean, that's.
Have any recent numbers been done on an estimate of what something like that would cost?
I think just whatever numbers were, I think a while ago were projected. Obviously, that's been a few years. We would have to get consultants in and design work, so that there's a lot more that have to be done to come up more concrete.
I hear it pop up here and there, but.
Oh, there is. I mean,
Yeah.
I have members that my friends that live in the community, and we're at, having dinner or something, and
Somebody will say.
it'll come up, it'll
Yeah.
come up, and I'm trying to eat my food
Happy
and I
those
just
lights.
choke on it. It's like,
Yeah.
Question before, is there anyone?
Okay.
Sure. I just want to follow back up with one of her questions. So in order for somebody to know what the budget priorities are for the year currently, short of going and watching that presentation of the video, there's nowhere like on the website, nowhere you can go to find out what the budget priorities are for the year. Am I understanding that correctly?
well, I guess you say budget priorities. We have a budget, they have in there, they explain what they're doing as far as if they're new curriculum and so forth. We also have in there capital items that we put in the budget. So we have those in there. So I mean, that's been discussed in some of the meetings.
So you don't have to just read the budget to understand what the priorities are.
Are you asking if there's like a
Yes.
spot on the website that would be like LMSD priorities and then?
Yeah.
a
I mean,
list?
it will tell you, I mean, again, in the different departments, they'll talk about, hey, this is what we're doing this, we're doing a new curriculum cycle. They talk about that. There's different things that are in there. Some of the budgets, it's routine dated. I mean, it's, you're getting more specialized, okay, there's a budget will increase. Utilities are going up. I mean, some of it's going to be the same things over and over again. Healthcare costs are going to go up, teacher salaries are going to go up. There may be some other new initiatives or priorities, whatever you want to call them, that may be in the different departments. But
Can you ever see that happening as a landing spot
Oh,
for
I-
parents? Yeah.
I was gonna say, it's a shame, I know Amy's probably tied up with the emergency at Penn Valley, but I was gonna say, I feel like this is something she'd be interested to hear, because she's in so many of these meetings, she may be able to take things and distill them to almost like an infographic, like pie chart percentage, where is this going? Bullets of what kind of things fall into each of those areas, or like key imperatives for the year, I almost feel like it's the spot where her job meets your job to translate it for the parents, so we could always.
It's not just the
Yeah.
parents, it's the community.
We get
taxpayers.
it's individuals.
Part of
Yeah.
budget transparency is showing what, not just presenting at board meetings, but making clear what's being funded, what was decided to not be funded, like having a communication strategy for the budget to determine how to communicate effectively in a transparent way. So parents can understand, so community can understand, so taxpayers can understand. It's not my fight, it's more when I see the discussions with school board meetings and all of that, there's a lot of discussion around a feeling of parents and community members that there's a lack of transparency around the budget specifically and what's being paid for and what's not. So I think that's why some of this is coming up.
Have you ever watched, did you watch any of the budget meetings last year?
No, because I'm new to the district, I have a kindergartner. So again, like people who are new to the district, like it shouldn't take, for a good communication strategy, it shouldn't take going back and watching meetings from a year before. There should be a clear way that someone can go on the website or somewhere where it lays out what the budget priorities are, what's being funded, what's not being funded. Like that should, that in a transparent way, that should be shown in a way that does not require going back and listening to board meeting recordings.
Great.
Well, you can attend them when they're live. I mean, you don't have to go back. I mean, they're available during the day, so people can attend them during the day. We make it available for recordings if people work and can't see it. So other districts don't do that. I mean, other districts don't. You don't come to the meeting, that's it. You can come to the meeting, you can listen to the recording. So we try to be as transparent as we can and provide information so people can learn about the process.
We do have a question online. Can you make it so that?
Yeah, Kimberly, I'm gonna unmute you.
Yeah, hi. So,
Oh, wait, hold on 1 second. Let me just turn this. Hold on 1 sec, sorry. Okay. Oh,
hi, good morning. I'm Kimberly Neff, and I'm HSA co-president at Welsh Valley. So I think just with the priorities question, just to try to ask it in a different way, maybe, I think the idea, if you're dealing with competing priorities, for example, if the staff salaries, if they said we wanted more money, but you had other priorities that were competing, for example, facilities or, curriculum needs, what have you, you need to have some guidelines in terms of how to make those decisions. So, do you say year to year, we know 30% of our budget is going towards facilities and 25% is going towards, staff salary and benefits, what have you. So I guess, like, are those things kind of documented? And is that potentially in the most recent strategic plan, or like where would those types of like just basic guidelines be documented?
Well, you mentioned about teacher salaries. That's all negotiated and there's a collective bargaining agreements. That's pretty much laid out as to what the terms of their employment is going to be. And then we have the number of employees, so we can figure out what that is. But there's other things competing as far as, increasing healthcare costs, increase in the contribution to teachers. So all that is, I call it fixed costs, so to speak, that we're required to do. And then we have to see like what other budgets or increases in the budgets are, and then see what individuals are requesting. You call it
Right.
priorities, and then we have to see like what can be funded, what cannot be funded, and if there's a item that somebody says no, we need this, and another item may go to the wayside. It varies from year to year, so it really depends on what's happening.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Jennifer, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, I just wanted to share a few things. Sorry, Jen Rivera, Valakenwood. That came up. That's super helpful. So there is an entire page on our LMSD website that breaks down the budget. If you have trouble navigating it, I know it's not easy. Just click on Find It Fast in the upper left-hand corner and type in budget. And what was asked earlier was you'll see the entire breakdown of the budget in a high-level, simplified way, because Talia, I know you asked that, in huge graphs with a description line by line item of the budget with anticipated revenue, comparing it to the year prior. So you can see if it increased, decreased. There are pie charts for you can see where the money is coming from and where it's going. So I just encourage you to go on that. It's super helpful. I come with a financial background, and I mean, this is so detailed and great, but also when you talk about priorities, you can look on the website, on the site, if you missed the very first board meeting of the year where Dr. Ranelli talked about priorities for the upcoming year. But also what I love is I went to every budget meeting is you get to hear the priorities too. So it's by department, the leads come in and share their priorities for the upcoming year and why they're suggesting certain line items, classifications, and everything for the budget. So it's not just like the cabinet, like he said, but also you'll hear from special education, you'll hear from the athletic directors, you'll hear from each department talking about their upcoming priorities and explaining to the board the allocations and why it's important. That continues to help our CFO shape the budget and everything. So just want to encourage that too, because that has been super helpful. Listening to that, understanding of the upcoming priorities and comparing it from the past and moving forward. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
That's
Super
helpful. Is there anyone else that's online? Are there?
Allison, did you have a question? Did I accidentally just unmute you?
Here we go. Go ahead, Ty.
Does each department get a budget? So when you're planning out the year's budget, does curriculum get a budget? Do facilities get a budget? Like, do you budget it that way, or is it just kind of like here's our $350 million
Yeah.
budget? Everybody asks for what they want.
Each department prepares a budget. So if it's operations will prepare a budget, student services will, curriculum will, transportation will, each building does our own budget. Each EPR to each building will be done also, so that they're all done individually. So the cabinet will meet as a whole and review all the department budgets.
And make sure
And then make sure we'll go in to review the budgets pretty much line by line to go through what you're requesting, what are you asking for, why is this line item increasing so much? So we go through that in detail. And then at that point in time, the I guess responsible administrator may be required to revise their budget before it gets presented to the public. So we do that in detail, with that.
Are there any other questions in the room? Anyone else online? Okay. Great. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we appreciate you being here. And thank you to everyone who came with great questions, both online and on Zoom.
We have just one correction to the date.
Oh,
The date for parent ed is the 18th
Oh.
now, so as not to conflict with the strategic.
okay.
Parent
Great,
meeting for
great, thank
community
you.
outreach. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's 7 p.m. on Zoom. So our next parent education is November 18th, 7 p.m. on Zoom. And please join us for Dr. Gao Che-Young for the science of reading. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. That was super